We like the chapter, the prior chapter about, in this book, about where she grew up, and Coco Chanel. We're talking about the secret of Coco Chanel #5. We're going to find about the chapter on marketing minimalism, because of my interest in minimalism. Are you interested in minimalism?
You know I am.
Okay, you were one before I thought of it.
I am in Tan Metro Nariston.
You were a minimalist before I knew what the word minimalism was. So, at Christmas time, we're talking about minimalistic products. So, if you want to buy minimalism. I'm trying to buy myself into minimalism by minimalistic products. By buying a book on minimalism, I can become minimalistic. With the creation, this is chapter 9, marketing minimalism. With the creation of Les Parfums Chanel in 1924, the Wertheimer brothers with Théophile Biter and Coco Chanel as minority partners set out to make Coco Chanel #5, a perfume with a global distribution, and by doing so to gain worldwide fame for the product. This is how you market your art. By following this chapter. These efforts were the first serious attempts to market the fragrance, traditionally a fragrance that had become a favorite among the fashionable women who shopped in Paris, despite Coco Chanel's strategic refusal to pay for any advertising. Indeed, it had become a sensation among these social elite women who could afford to have their clothing made for them by the famous Coco Chanel, based on word of mouth alone. Those who brought their clothing off the rack at the world's great department stores couldn't yet pick up a bottle of Chanel #5 at the beauty counter unless they happened to be shopping at the Galeries Lafayette after 1923. This would all completely change. The transformation of Chanel #5 into the world's most famous perfume would happen with the opening of the vast American market. So it's all due to free markets. It's due to no trade barriers. Or maybe it's due to the Americans. It's all thanks to America. By the 1920s, American women had, at the words of one historian, the greatest value of surplus money ever given to women to spend in all of history. The post-war years saw the rise of a new kind of luxury market that included the middle-class consumer. The goal at Les Parfums Chanel, where Ernest Beaux had now been hired as the head of fragrance, was to bring Chanel #5 into the numéro 5. It's the word is 5, you know? 5, 5. Un, deux, trois.
5, yeah.
Chanel, to the cultural mainstream where it could reach the women who read fashion magazines like Vogue and patterned their hemlines after news from Paris. Ironically, Coco Chanel imagined her minimalistic perfume in opposition to the world of salesmanship, and even after the partners at Les Parfums Chanel took over the marketing and distribution of Chanel #5, the advertising was determinedly understated, not just for the first few years, but for most of the next 2 decades. The persistent idea, then, that Chanel #5's original success was the result of heavy advertising and cunning marketing campaigns could not be farther from the truth. In fact, the real surprise is that the early marketing didn't manage to undermine it completely. Those first advertisements are baffling. The partners at Les Parfum Chanel outlined that strategy succinctly. Are you done yet? In the first sales catalog sent to retailers in France immediately after the creation of the partnership in 1924, it was a remarkably simple affair in black and white and with a plain brown paper cover, black edging, and a white ribbon, the signature Chanel colors. It tells us everything we know about how Coco imagined her signature scent and how the partners at Les Parfum Chanel now precisely imagined it for her, and it cuts to the heart of why there was, in the beginning, so little marketing. Quote, luxury perfume, unquote, the brochure reads. This term has lost much of its value because of how it is abused. Modern advertising touches everything, but that is only a matter of attractive bottle or fine packaging. The Chanel perfumes created exclusively for connoisseurs occupy a unique and unparalleled place in the kingdom of perfume, committed to the creation of an original perfume different from anything else obtainable. Mademoiselle Chanel succeeded in finding some extracts of an exceptional quality and so evocative of the Chanel style that they take their place among her earliest creations. The perfection of the product forbids dressing it in the customary artifices. Why rely on the art of the glassmaker or the manufacturer of cartons? This often brings an air of prestige to a dubious product and brings mercenary cheers from the press to sway a naive public. Mademoiselle Chanel is proud to present simple bottles adorned only by their whiteness. We're talking about whiteness. Just smiling at the whiteness. Whiteness, precious teardrops of perfume, of incompatible, terrible quality, and unique in composition, revealing the artistic personality of their creators. Sold at the beginning only by Mademoiselle Chanel in her stores in Paris, Deauville, Cannes, and Biarritz. These perfumes became highly prized in elegant circles in France and abroad. A great demand convinced Mademoiselle Chanel to consent to sell her products in different countries around the world at a few renowned and chosen houses. We're talking about marketing, the marketing of the world's most famous perfume. In rejecting the idea of fussy advertising, it was the quality of her fragrance that they wanted to showcase, and the clear message to the consumer that in the world of luxury, flashy marketing was part of the problem. Unlike the ornate and florid perfume bottles being famously created by the luxury glass firm of Crystal Baccarat in the 1920s, Les Parfums Chanel would make a simple pharmaceutical bottle its signature. Immediately after that meeting with Ernest Beaux in 1920, in which she selected his famous fifth sample, Coco Chanel had started planning for the Paris launch of her new fragrance. She had picked out the bottle. However, much earlier, the decision about the bottle had been a long, fascinating one, elegant, she once said his refusal. And the bottle for Chanel No. 5 was an act of both memory and defiance. What the bottle would not look like was one important consideration, what it would not look like. Most perfume bottles before Coco Chanel were as ornate and as flowery as this, fragrances within them decorated with swirling, gaudy flourishes of color and design. She wanted something with cleaner lines, Something that would be distinct and simple. It would have lines as clean as those notes of the aldehydes in the fragrance. Like the perfume, it would also have to be sensual. Selecting her signature perfume had always been wrapped up intimately with Bois Chapelle and the bottle, and this simple glass shape was nothing if not an intimate memory. The story usually told about her inspiration, however, isn't accurate. The boy had carried with him in his traveling case a set of matching toiletry bottles, and leather cases with flacons and brushes were common. Boy's set came, some say, from the shop of his shirt maker Solka. Others say it came from the tailors at Charvet. Already in the 1920s, the most exclusive couture house for men's fashion, where nearly all the men of Coco Chanel's acquaintance brought her shirts hand-tailored. Coco Chanel shopped there herself on occasion. The company also produced the gorgeously patterned silks that even she couldn't find anywhere else. Both toiletry bottles shared the same economy of lines that she admired in the Romanesque architecture of Abazine in the fall of a dress, and then, when asked years later where the design had come from, Coco's Chanel's artistic director, the late Jacques Helleu, remembered hearing from his father, Jean, that the Charvet butter was behind it. Charvet, Charvet. But that wasn't where Coco found her inspiration at all. Her real model was one of Bois Chapelle's whiskey decanters. It's from whiskey. It's a whiskey decanter. Do you think it comes from a whiskey decanter? It looks like it. That's kind of sexy, though, to have woman's perfume in a whiskey decanter. Is that how you get sexy? Her friend Amicia Cert described the original design for the Eau Chanel bottle, as she insisted on calling Chanel No. 5 as, quote, solemn, ultra-simple, quasi-pharmaceutical, unquote, and Coco ordered copies of just such a bottle, adapted in the Chanel taste. Made in delicate and expensive glass, and sometimes for special clients in crystal from the elite manufacturers at the firm of Brosse, B-R-O-S-S-E. It'd be nice to have it in crystal. I would like an antique bottle used for Chanel No. 5 in crystal. Everything that it was pure transparency about it was pure transparency. Dear, do you want your Chanel No. 5 in a crystal bottle of the original, like one of the first original bottles?
Yeah.
You want the original perfume?
Yeah.
You want it from 1924?
No.
You want it all. You want the bottle, an old bottle, a new bottle. What Coco Chanel wanted was an invisible bottle. You want your bottle invisible. You want to just think of the bottle.
I just want a bottle.
What Coco Chanel wanted was an invisible bottle that ironically would one day become one of the world's most recognizable icons. That's like if you could get do you think that you could get Andy Warhol to paint it and paint the bottle?
Why? Can I?
Did he paint it? Did he like it? Ernest Beaux had created an abstract floral perfume in the scent of Chanel No. 5, a fragrance that Coco Chanel would celebrate as a composition not unlike a dress. The bottle would be its complement, the abstraction of a bottle from which everything was erased except the essentials of wine. Do you do that in architecture where you have just the essentials of wine? It was a surprising decision, maybe even a de rigueur in some ways, though the bottle wasn't nearly as radical as it appears. The history of early 20th century perfume bottles reveals something entirely unexpected. This style of bottle was already being used in the fragrance industry. The mainstream might have preferred those overwrought crystal creations, but by the early 1920s there was a fledgling movement in a design towards a new kind of artistry in the perfume bottles. It's the elegant, elaborate designs of René Lalique, Lalique, that everyone remembers, and the collections today, of course, already, quote, the art of the bottle, tending to simplicity of line and decoration, unquote, was gaining momentum. However, in Lalique, Lalique, can you pronounce it? Lalique.
Let me see.
Lalique.
Where is it?
La.
Oh. Lalique.
Lalique. Lalique was producing elegant, streamlined, modern flacons.
Like that.
Some of them strongly resemble that first Chanel No. 5 design, the 1907 Lalique bottle from Soissons, Côté.
Liqueur, I know.
La Rose Jacques, no. A bottle of perfume that was a huge commercial success, strikingly similar. It's the same delicate pharmaceutical style with a discreet label and a square stopper. The only notable differences are some extraneous Art Nouveau flourishes. Cody himself had been introduced to the world of perfume making in a friend's pharmacy where he had seen dozens of understated, elegant glass bottles, it's worth noting, not entirely unlike the one Coco Chanel designed for her signature scent. Throughout most of the first part of the century, Coty was the world's largest fragrance house. But one of the other international powerhouses was Bourgeois, the parent perfume company that had first made the Wertheimer brothers' fortunes. At least as early as 1920, the Bourgeois bottles for its Ashes of Roses 1909 also used a flash, whose lines are a close echo of the Chanel No. 5 bottle, simple, clear, square, with just a small maroon paper label. Coco was a careful businesswoman. She made her name by paying attention to details. When she began her study of fragrance in 1919, she assessed her would-be competitors. With her gift for timing, she selected a bottle that reflected a new chic direction in the industry. From the marketing perspective, the achievement of Chanel No. 5 has not been that its packaging has been entirely revolutionary, but that it has always pushed what some have called the sharp edge of the avant-garde. This is precisely the case with the famous bottle. Do you think she was a girlfriend of Stravinsky? Did they have a relationship? Is he avant-garde? Or rather, with the bottle that would become famous as it evolved over the years, because the first bottle used for Chanel No. 5 isn't quite the same as the one that today is among the world of luxury's most recognized icons. In the beginning, the flask wasn't sold in the now ubiquitous square-cut bottle with its sharp and beveled soldiers, the whole original bottle. The one that shown in that 1921 tribute to Chanel No. 5 by Sem was gently curved at the edges. Its shape was sleek, the teeniest bit masculine, and spectacularly understated. Dear, does it have a little cut at the edge? Does
It
it?
has to.
It has a little cut.
It cannot be. Otherwise, it would be just it hurt you when you touch it.
Yeah.
It has to be have a little bit of roundness.
The innovations that directly led to the bottle we know today up into 1924. We're reading this for a forward posting in the year 2024 on the 100th anniversary. So it's going to be posted, reposted. When the original rounded and ethereal thin glassware was proving too delicate for distribution, and the partners at Le Parfum Chanel ordered a new design. Produced at the celebrated Cristales de Saint-Louis, and glass and only rarely in crystal. Later in the course of nearly a century now, there has been only one substantial modification to the shape of the bottle. In 1924, the corners of the bottle were first faceted and squared. Over the years, the stopper, however, has changed more dramatically. In fact, it's the variations in the stoppers that experts use to date bottles of vintage. Chanel number 5. You know how you tell the difference there between the dates, if you're a connoisseur, by the stopper.
Oh, yeah?
That's how you tell what year it is. Do you want one from 1924, 1930, 1940, 50, 60? A current one, a new one, an old one? What year?
Yeah, if you really get one with when she was alive.
When you get your bonus, you're going to get, when I get my bonus, I'm going to give you...
When you get your millions.
When I get my millions of dollars, I'm going to buy you a bottle of Chanel perfume.
Thank you.
It'll be from 1924. Huh. What if I don't know what that cost? It will be on your birthday. The Chanel on your birthday. Birth year, you get a bottle of Chanel, number 5. In 1921, when Coco Chanel first launched Chanel number 5 from her boutique to her admiring clients, the top was nothing more than a small utilitarian square glass plug, although the Chevet boutique was just a stone's throw from Paris's ritzy Place Vendome. Do you know Place Vendome? The original flask didn't yet have that familiar faceted lead stopper that some people insist was inspired by the monument in the center of that famously chic square. Inspired by, it says there's a monument in the square at Place Vendome. The signature octagonal stopper was also added in 1924 when Le Parfum Chanel redesigned the bottle. Since then, there has been only 3 other alterations. 3 times. Okay, in the 1950s, the bevel cut stopper was made thicker and larger. And in the 1970s, it has made even bigger. The last change was in 1986 when the size of the stopper was scaled back to balance the proportions. So, dear, are you listening? In the 50s, it was made thicker and larger. The 70s, it was made even bigger. And the last change was 1986 when it was made smaller. It reflected the times. Everything in the 50s got bigger. The 70s got bigger. The 80s got smaller. So the bottle reflected the history. The history of, we're talking about the history of minimalism within the Chanel number 5. So if you're shopping for your wife's present for Christmas and you need to know things about original antique Chanel number 5. There is another small controversy about the origins of the famous Chanel number 5 bottle, however. And it's a story that suggests that the updated Flacon in 1924 might have come with some hard feelings. The original flask for Chanel No. 5 hadn't ever been entirely original, but some fragrance historians suspected the changes to the bottle in 1924 also had their inspiration in the bottle for another perfume. A perfume that was already intimately entangled with the story of Chanel No. 5. At Chery's, Ernest Beaux had a former colleague by the name of Jean Helleu. Helleu was an accomplished painter. If you know the painter Helleu, painter who, because of his keen sense of aesthetics, was highly sought after as a designer of fragrance packaging. Some of his earliest designs were for Coty, but he had also worked for Kieris designing bottles in 1923, when after the success of Chanel No. 5 and Ernest Beaux' departure, Rallet No. 5 was being relaunched in the French market. This is where the controversy comes in. Experts have uncovered at least one rare example of Rallet No. 5, packaged in a bottle that is immediately recognizable. Rallet. In fact, it is iconic. It is the same bottle as the 1924 Chanel No. 5 flacon, precisely. Oh my God. Hallet No. 1. There's maybe only one of them, one rare. That would cost millions of dollars at Sotheby's, and maybe less at Christie's. Do you want a bottle of Rallet No. 1? That's the one rare example where another perfume is in the same bottle. And it cost only $23 million. I could pick it up from Sotheby's.
Be careful, they'll think you are rich, and then
Now they know that I'm extremely rich in thought, at least in thought. Who designed that Rallet No. 1 bottle, and what was the direction of the influence? It's all a mystery of chronology. Jean Helleu and his son Jacques after him went on to spend distinguished careers working for Chanel, but according to the company archives, there is no evidence of Jean Helleu having worked for the house before 1930. Meanwhile, the surviving Rallet No. 1 bottle, produced for export to the American market, is impossible to date precisely. Either way, though, the undercurrent was electric. If the 1924 updates to the Chanel No. 5 bottle were borrowed from the design for the 1923 Rallet No. 1 relaunch, then it's difficult to imagine that the businessmen of Chery and Francois Cote, already among them, were anything but furious. They stole it. Using a formula developed at Rallet was one thing. Packaging the new perfume in the same bottle as the predecessor must have seemed outrageous. That's outrageous. Well, we'll continue. More likely it happened the other way, and Rallet No. 1 was packaged in the Chanel No. 5 bottle after 1924 in order to capitalize on its obvious success, but designing the Rallet No. 1 packaging to imitate deliberately the Chanel No. 5 bottle was still a pointed kind of irony. Only a small group of people knew or suspected the connections between those two scents until 1990s. And if that's the case, then someone had a sharp sense of humor. Someone who also knew the entangled history of those two fragrances and didn't mind advertising it. Well, the rest you can read from the book. I'm going to stop and have a coffee because I'm minimalized this reading to 30 minutes. You can see the edge here on the stopper. And what's the date of this one? They don't say. What's the date of the bottle on the cover? Here's the most famous user. She used to go to bed with just a few drops. The only thing she wore to bed was a few drops of Chanel No. 5. The credits to the photo credit. What kind is on the cover? What kind of bottle is this one? We don't know which year this bottle is, so that's the mystery reading. We're asking the question, what year is this bottle of Chanel No. 5? Is it 1950? Is it 1970? Is it after 1986? Is it 1924? Or is it Rallet No. 1? That's the question. That is the question.